I call this meeting to order at 7:30. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to take this time to remind everybody to silence their cell phones during the meeting.
Okay. Where are we going down to now?
Ellen, I'll let you take over.
Oh, okay. So we need a motion to accept the agenda as prepared.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, so now,
Lucinda, if you could just back up to the point where it says executive session so that there's no recommendation to go in, that would be the proper way to do it.
oh, okay. So do I read that? Recommended, make a motion to accept the agenda, oh, no, to enter into executive session, but there is no recommendation to enter into executive session. So we are returning to regular session. And now we have news from GLP, Mr. Duff.
Good evening. I'm so excited to introduce our somewhat new librarian, Mr. Duff, who's standing behind me, who's going to share some things with you. This is his second year at GLP, and we've been fortunate. He is part-time. He has a little extra time this year because we changed our model. But as you know, when we have a part-time employee, I always cross my fingers that we're not going to lose them to another district. And we have always crossed our fingers here with Mr. Duff because he is a hidden secret at GLP, and we are so excited to have you see some of the great things he does. So he is not only our librarian, but he does some amazing things with our students. He has incorporated technology. He right now is working with a committee to create a fabulous family reading night next week on Wednesday. If you want to come and take a look at that, we would love any of you to come and visit. So he's putting a new spin on family reading night for those of you who have had children come through the GLP. So we have a little new spin on that. So I would like to introduce Mr. Christopher Duff, who is the GLP librarian, with something new he's doing at GLP to entice our students to be really excited about reading.
And you have an alias name too, Mr. Duff, so you might as well tell the board.
Yes, Mr. Potter.
All right.
Do you see the resemblance?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Well, good evening. I am Chris Duff, as Lauren mentioned. She asked me to come here tonight and just say a few words on a new project I've undertaken. And it's something I've been cooking up for a while, but it hasn't really hit the ground till recently. How it started was a few weeks back in September, I had gotten my first big book order in of the year. It was my big Scholastic book box. And I've been wanting to make sort of a video book review channel that would be accessible through my teacher webpage. And I hadn't really gotten around to it yet, but I had this giant box in my hands and I said, you know what, why don't I just start it right now? So I set my phone on the tripod, opened up the box, and basically just started babbling to myself alone in the library at 4:30 on a Wednesday afternoon. Took it home, cut the footage, set it to some music, royalty-free music, I'll add. It's no copyright infringement on there. And, threw it up on YouTube. The next day I asked Lauren, I said, I'm just checking, is it okay for me to put YouTube videos that I've made on my webpage? And she took a look at it and said, oh yeah, this is great, everyone should see this. So I think by the next day, the whole building had seen it once, if not multiple times, and the kids just ate it up. They were so excited for all the new books they'd seen in it, and they're clamoring for the next episode, which should be coming tomorrow. Episode 2 will be live tomorrow. So what am I hoping to accomplish with this? Well, two things. Number one, I just want to make a window into the library from the outside. I think a lot of times our program can seem a little isolated from a student's everyday life at school, sort of like what happens in the library stays in the library. and parents don't have a lot of parents especially don't have a lot of visibility into what our program offers and what we do in the library. So I thought that would be a good way to expand the library program beyond the physical walls of the building to have this online presence. And number two, I'm just hoping to make the library more fun. A lot of times kids come to the library and all they ever want to read is Pokemon and Minecraft, and you'll see that reflected in the video, and I'm certainly not going to try to dictate what they read, but we also have a lot of hidden treasures in our library, so I'm hoping these videos can highlight not only new acquisitions to our collection, sort of Reading Rainbow style, but also turn the spotlight on some of the, like I said, the hidden treasures that we already have in our library. So with that, I'll let you take a peek at my really goofy video.
Well, hello there, super readers. This is Mr. Duff. I have a giant box in my arms, and I bet you're wondering what's inside. Why don't we go over to the story rug and take a look? Oh, this is so heavy. Okay, well, let's open it up and see what's inside. Ooh, do we have some goodies in here? So it looks like first we have the Dragon Masters series. I haven't read this one yet, but I heard it's very good. We also have the Time Jumpers. If you like Magic Treehouse, I guarantee you'll like this series. It's about some kids traveling through time to different historical periods. And oh, I know nobody in this school loves Minecraft. I might as well just throw this in the trash. What if you had animal hair? Good question. Oh, Pokemon as well. I think this, what do you think? I'll just throw this right in the trash. Nobody likes Pokemon at this school. I don't know why they just keep sending me garbage. Okay, we got a couple Fly Guys. Ooh, a Lego nonfiction book about volcanoes. A couple more Legos about emergency vehicles and mighty machines. Owl Diaries, yes! I know a lot of you have been asking for Owl Diaries, and I've been meaning to get them for our library. I'm really excited that we have these now. Hildy Cracks the Case. I have not read this series myself yet, so if you happen to read it before I do, let me know how it is. Do not bring your dragon to recess. Good advice. What if you had animal eyes? Yikes! Oh, the newest bad guys. The bad guys in Do You Think He Saurus? I'm guessing they meet some dinosaurs in this one. Ooh, another bad guys. Bad guys number 5, Intergalactic Gas. Oh. The Guinness Book of World Records for 2020. Let's see what, let's see if we can find an interesting world record. Largest soap bubble ever. A man blew a bubble that was 4 feet, 6 inches tall. Okay. Oh. I am so excited about this series. We have Super Rabbit Boy now. Well, the series is called Press Start, but the main character in it is Super Rabbit Boy. He's a video game character, and if you like any of the classic Nintendo games like Super Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda, Star Fox, Mario Kart, these books are going to be right up your alley. It's all about Super Rabbit Boy's adventures in video game world, fighting a bad guy called Angry Viking or something. King Viking, I think, is his adversary. I love this series. How an ebook works. What if you had an animal nose? If you were a kid at the first Thanksgiving, please, Mr. Panda. I love Mr. Panda. He is pretty grumpy. Eerie Elementary. School freezes over. This is another series, again, sort of like My Weird School, but creepier. So as you can see, we have a ton of new books, and a big thank you to our PTA who puts on the Scholastic Book Fair, which allows us to buy so many brand new books every year. So next time you're in the library, take a look for one of these new books, and remember to keep those pages turning. See you next time.
Oh, well done.
So I showed this to our PR associate, Carrie, and she's like, oh, he's got really good editing skills. So I thought you'd want to know you got kudos from Carrie.
Thank you.
And anything to get kids interested in reading, I just love it. So well done.
Thank you.
Good for you.
So you know they're going to be looking for the next version of this series.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like I said, episode 2 should be out tomorrow.
Check the GLP website.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to start reading more now.
All right, now, Mrs. Banco, Transportation.
I don't know if it's fair to put me right after him.
Yeah, you should have reversed it, right?
Try to get mine going. Share it?
Sure, yep, got it.
No, I don't think so. But she might have some. Yeah, she has a slide too.
All right, thank you. It's a Mac. I'm not used to a Mac. I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
So next week is National School Bus Safety Month, so I thought this would be a good month to talk to you guys about some of the safety initiatives we've started over the last year or so in our department. Our role obviously is to get the kids to and from school safely, and while their behavior on the bus is a huge part of that, we don't have control over what happens with the passing motorist, people outside the bus, the kids when they're outside the bus. So we've been really working hard with our kids to teach them all about safety on and off the bus. So the kids know what to do if something happens outside the bus. And there's an unfortunate number of accidents with passing motorists, people not paying attention, people passing the bus reds. And we don't want any of our kids to fall victim to some of what's going on in the society today. So we actually started this past year, the Corn Fest Committee was kind enough to give us a spot over at the festival grounds, just outside the grounds. And we took one of our small buses over to kind of kickstart things during the summer. We had, again, just a little bus. We had tours of the bus. There was a driver there the whole time. We were there for 2 days. Unfortunately, most of the kids wanted to pass right by us to go in and do the rides, but we're going to keep trying, evolving a little bit over the next couple years. Again, we had a driver there. We have these safety flyers that we have on the bus. It talks a lot about, for the parents and for the kids, safety rules, things they should do, things they should remember, parents cutting the backpack straps so they don't get caught in the doors, things like that. And then we had some safety trivia boards. You can see them kind of hanging off the side there. Things that we made, a couple of my drivers and I made, where like this one's a picture of one of our students doing kind of everything wrong. Shoelaces untied, the backpack's open, she's eating, she's not paying attention, not holding the handrail, and then the kids would flip it up and try to see how many things they had gotten wrong. So we had a few of those things that we made, and let the kids go in and take a tour, let the parents ask questions. Kids can try out the seats. Some of our buses now have seat belts, so they got to try that out. Not quite the turnout we were hoping for because, like I said, the kids wanted to go inside, but we had a fair response there. So we start early in the summertime, and then very shortly after that, we do a summer mailing. And every student in the district gets a letter because one family might have 3 kids, but with all of our out-of-district placements, those kids might not all go the same place. So we send one letter to each kid. And there's, again, a bunch of the safety reminders, an explanation of the pickup routine, the kids' route information is in there, and then we customize that letter by school. So the GLP kids get a letter that's catered to them, elementary, middle school, high school, and then our out-of-school kids also. St. Francis, for example, their letter will explain how to do the transfer at the high school, how to catch their bus back to Eden to get home. I include a one-page calendar so the parents know when the bus is coming for them, because we did find out over the years that just because we know Eden's closed, maybe the out-of-district parents didn't, and we had kids waiting outside for a bus, so we include that now. We talk about behavior expectations and winter. Winter's a big deal. Parents don't want their kids standing outside in the snow, so I offer some suggestions on how they could wait right inside the door and when they see the lights coming to make sure they're out there in time so we can pick them up and not have the bus running real slow. But anyways, we go right from the Corn Fest into the summer mailing, and then kickstart it right in that first week of school. The New York State Education Department requires 3 bus drills a year, and the first one has to be done in the first 7 days of school, which is a really busy time of school for everybody. But state ed requires that it is done the first time within the first 7 days. State ed also says that it's not just the kids that ride the bus that need to be trained, it's every kid, because you might be on a field trip or a sports run and never have been on the bus before, and God forbid you're in an accident and need to know what to do. And also, you know, some kids ride the bus one day, but they might not another day. So years ago, we used to do the drills right on the bus, but we were only hitting the kids that were on the bus that day. So our gym teachers this year all jumped on board, kindergarten through 12th grade. We had 2 bus drivers work with 2 of the schools, and then at GLP, the gym teachers have been doing it themselves for years, so they handled it there. So we were actually able to train all of the students over the course of 3 or 4 days. They talk about the emergency exits, fire extinguishers, boarding, behavior, sitting down, how to use the seatbelt if you're going to wear it, and then they practice an evacuation out the back side of the bus. So we'll be doing 2 more of those, one during the winter and one in the spring. Very similar concept to the fire drills that they do here at school. It's all required. And then our drivers take that to the next step, and they do daily reminders. So the kids are learning every single day, because the kids really, especially the young ones, need the repetition. And if we train them at a young age, we see them growing up and doing things the right way. So the drivers will do a quick reminder, hey, Joey, hold the handrail when you get off, or don't forget to check before you step off, or don't forget to wait for my signal. And they do this every day. They remind the kids about something every day, so they're constantly learning. During that first week, while we're doing the safety drills with the whole school, we've talked about this in the past. This is our 3rd year. We did the pre-K and kindergarten safety day at the GLP, where the kids come in class by class, they have an assigned time, and they watch a Disney, it's actually a Disney video that they created for bus safety, where Winnie the Pooh and his friends go on their first bus ride. So the kids watch the video, and we talk about it, and then they go out for a very short bus ride. It's only 6 or 7 minutes, and they practice all the things they just learned about in their video. They go for the ride, they come back to school, and then the teachers work with the kids. Parents are invited to go for the ride and be in the classroom also. And they practice crossing 2 or 3 kids at a time, and you can see the ones on the bottom here. Winnie the Pooh talks about taking 10 giant steps in front of the bus, so you can see one of the little girls there trying to take her big giant steps out front. So they get to practice, and it's a big hit. The kids like it. At the end of the day, they all get a coloring book that talks about safety and a little pack of crayons, so hopefully they go home and talk with mom and dad about what they learned if they weren't there in the class with them. I mentioned already the safety brochure that we have. We use this brochure, it's just something we created ourselves. We use this a lot of places. We send it out to the GLP kids during the summer with their mailing. We had it on the safety bus at the Corn Fest. We give it out to new students. Lucinda had a stack, and when she isn't able to hand them out, we send them. We also have a supply for our drivers. If we have a parent that we really want to make sure that we touch base with, we'll hand this to the driver and they give it to the parents. And there's a supply of those in our break room all the time for the drivers to take whenever they want. The activity book that I mentioned that we hand out at GLP Safety Day is also something that I have for the drivers all the time. This is published by, it's called PTSI. They're actually an organization that is contracted by the State Ed Department to do all of their safety training. So they're very inexpensive, like 10 or 12 cents a piece. And it's got dot to dot and coloring and just activities about holding the handrail and remembering to stay seated and use your indoor voice and things like that. So we have a supply of those for the drivers, and if they have a kiddo that they really want to touch base with, they'll give them that in their little pack of crayons, because you can't very well color without your crayons. And we find that the kids really enjoy that, and we see the pre-K kids that come into kindergarten next year looking for it when they finish their safety thing. The New York State Ed Department also publishes a crossing poster, and you'll see this on each one of our buses. This is the same poster that goes throughout the state, so every bus in New York State should have one of these, and it's a pictorial description of how to cross the road safely. Again, we can't control the motorists, but we see so many of the kids that do get hit by cars. It's because maybe they weren't watching the driver, or they weren't listening for the horn. When a driver blows the horn, it means something bad's going to happen, so you're supposed to go back to where you started. So this is a visual reminder each day of the safe crossing procedures. And then our drivers and attendants go through constant training. State Ed requires 4 hours of refresher training for all drivers and attendants every year. 3 of those hours are provided by the state because they want every driver and every attendant in New York State to get 3 topics. Everybody gets the same thing. The State Ed provides the PowerPoint presentation for it. And then the districts are allowed to pick that 4th hour at their discretion. All of our drivers and attendants receive a pre-service and a basic course, and then the next step is an advanced course that's offered by State Ed, and it's a 10-hour class, and it gets into more detail about accident prevention and safety on the bus. About 5 years ago, all of our drivers took the class, and they've almost all asked to take it again, so we'll be doing that again this year. And then also we do custom designed, twice a year we do our own staff development district-based. The newest thing that we have done, and this is the last thing I'll talk about tonight, we've been working with the Transportation Security Administration's people. They're a part of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And they came in a couple months ago and they did kind of a pre-assessment. They asked us a lot of questions, everything from where do you hang your keys to how secure is your lot. Everything you can think of, they asked about training and everything. And they gave us some ideas on ways we could improve, and they told us where we thought they thought we were doing a good job. Then they began multiple visits to our site. So this is where it got to be a little bit fun for us because, you know, we live in Eden and people think things aren't going to happen here, but it does happen here. Over the summer we had people in blowing off the fire extinguishers, but it could be bigger. There could be other things. And just because we're in the small town of Eden doesn't mean that we shouldn't think about what if there's something on the bus? What if somebody came in and did something? What if there's a kid's, you know, hanging out there and they're still sleeping there in the morning? So these guys came in one morning about 4 o'clock in the morning with me, and they watched everything. They just kind of saw how we did things. And then a few days later, they came back in again. And the drivers don't know they didn't have any idea what was going on. So they came in and placed backpacks on 10 of our buses. They knew when the buses would be driving out, and they worked with me, and they put 10 backpacks on 10 different buses, and the goal was to see if our drivers would find them if they were doing a thorough pre-trip. So they stood outside the gate here by the elementary school, and I stopped every bus, and I pretended I was checking for fire extinguishers. And if that driver had a bag on the bus, these guys would walk up to the driver and say, hey, did you do a pre-trip? Did you find anything? And our folks did great. I'm happy to say they far surpassed the national average. But by about the 5th or 6th backpack that was found, we realized there's some things that we want to think about doing because everybody was bringing the backpacks into the bus garage, and Sherry was in the office. And we probably would not want to do that. We should probably leave them there because potentially we blew Sherry up about 8 times. But the drivers had a lot of fun with it, and the guys from Homeland Security came in the following day and talked with our folks, and we'll be using the suggestions that they give us to develop some ideas because the school buildings have very good procedures in place for if there's an intruder or, we need to keep people out, we need to keep people in. But a school bus is largely unsecured. You can't lock the emergency exits. You can't lock people out. There's no way to stop someone from coming onto the bus. So it's something the folks in our department have been talking about for a long time. What do we do if we're out there in the hills and the radio doesn't work and there's no cell phone and somebody hops on the bus? So the folks from Homeland Security are working with us to come up with some scenarios and some suggestions on how we might handle those kind of things. So for the folks in my department, that's really new for us, and they're excited about it, and they're excited to get working on the next step. And that pretty much sums up our new safety initiatives for next year. We're always looking for something new to do for the following year, so we have some ideas for next year. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, and I'm very sorry I had to follow him. Any questions?
Mary, I'll talk to you about maybe how to increase the tours at Cornfest. Sports
Sure.
boosters might have a little incentive to get the kids through.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good, thank you.
Like prizes?
Maybe a tattoo or so.
You know,
We seem to have a few of them in the concession stand that would be to good use.
Our big challenge at the Cornfest is that we couldn't man it from morning till night, so we needed to be put somewhere where we could drive the bus in and out. So we were actually put just outside the grounds and at the parking lot where the boosters lot goes into the grounds, so we could get the bus back out of there when we needed to. But yeah, we want to try it again. We think it's a good idea. We just have to we were practically begging people to come onto the bus and check it out.
We got a little incentive for them.
Okay, sounds good.
Mary, one of the visual posters that you showed actually showed a student walking across the street to get to their driveway. Can you talk about what you have done at Eden so that the majority of our students don't have to cross the road?
Well, we're in a very rural district, so we're plagued by blind curves and blind hills. So I've really tried hard to route the buses so we don't have to cross kids. We do have kids that cross, but I physically go out and look at the bus stop. So if we're on a street where I think there might be a hill or a curve or whatever, where there's any inkling that it might not be safe there, I do what I can to route the bus so it might go up and down that street both directions. But if one kid is crossing on a blind hill, that's not okay. So we've really worked hard to make sure the kids don't cross. We do have some that do cross, and we make sure those kiddos really understand the crossing procedures so they're safe when they get off the bus. We watch a lot of videos and training about kids who get hit, and all of them, they hop off the bus and they run across the road. They're not watching the driver. They're not checking before they step. They're not checking at the center of the road. So that's really huge for us, is teaching the kids how to do the things the right way when they do have to cross. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
I'm just waiting for mine to pop up.
No, it's not.
Okay. Okay, request to withdraw specific items from consent agenda. At this point during the meeting, members of the Board of Education may request to have any item removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. So now, approval of consent agenda items. Recommended that that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, consensus items A through V be approved.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
All right, public comment. Okay, this is the approximate position and time that the board has designated to receive statements from individuals and groups. The board will review all statements, then respond appropriately at a future meeting. All persons in attendance are required to sign the attendance sheet and designate their representation status. For example, parent, teacher, bus driver, Chamber of Commerce, etc. There is a 2-minute time limit. So, anybody? Okay. New business. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation for the purpose of retirement of special education teacher Sandra Ledke be accepted effective January 31st, 2020. The board and administration wish to thank Mrs. Ledke for her 27 and a half years of service to the district.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, this is always an interesting one for us. Those of you who've been in education for a while know all the different transformations that special education certification has taken on over the past 30, 40 years. Sandra Ladke carries one of the certifications that allows a lot of flexibility, and so attempting to replace her is been quite the challenge. We're not posted yet as Sean Johnson takes a look at what certification she actually needs to have now for this year, but also for following years coming up. But Sandra will be missed.
She'll be missed, but I'm happy for her because I think she'll be happy, so.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation for the purpose of retirement of health education teacher Catherine Klatt be accepted effective January 31st, 2020. The board and administration wish to thank Mrs. Klatt for her 28 and a half years of service to the district.
Second.
Any discussion?
It's hard to think of her being gone outside.
Absolutely.
You know, this is one of those situations where you take a teacher that's been here for 26, 27 years who completely revamped her teaching with technology. She teaches off of digital tools. She's paperless. It's the most amazing thing to watch her in the classroom. And she's certainly made her mark with students that were needing someone to talk to. She'll be missed.
Yep.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation of Director of Athletics, Physical Education, and Health, Marissa Falcaro Doherty, be accepted effective November 8th, 2019. The board and administration wish to thank Mrs. Falcaro Doherty for her 14 years of service to the district.
Second.
Any discussion?
Marissa has accepted a position at West Seneca. Her last date with us will be November 8th, which is a Friday. She starts in West Seneca on the following Monday. We like to take short weekends when we move from one district to another. Marissa's position will actually be reconfigured to be part assistant principal and part AD.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
New business appointments. Okay. The guidelines, we don't need to read the guidelines, right? Correct. So could we go down to B? That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Kristen Janko, be appointed on probation as a teacher aide effective October 7th, 2019, and ending April 6th, 2020. Salary is based upon CSEA contract, level 4, step 1.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Tina Wrigley be appointed as a fitness center worker effective October 17th, 2019. Salary is $11.10 per hour.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
Okay. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Joseph Doherty be appointed as girls varsity basketball coach for 2019 winter season. This appointment is conditional upon compliance with district regulations and training requirements and shall not be effective, and service to the district shall not begin until there has been compliance with statutory and regulatory provisions for certification or recertification and for fingerprinting and clearance for appointment.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
New business. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the 2003 Chevrolet Monte Carlo with that VIN number donated to the technology department in March 2017 from Basil Resale for students to work on be accessed and disposed of as the district deems appropriate. This vehicle is now unsafe to work on.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, 21 folding chairs that are broken be accessed and disposed of as the district deems appropriate.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, one Titmus vision tester be accessed from the Eden Elementary School Clinic and disposed of as the district deems appropriate.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Joe Lucenti be approved for temporary employment as a retiree under Section 211 of the Retirement and Social Security Law, subject to the approval of the waiver by the Commissioner. This temporary employment as the high school principal substitute for the Eden Central School District will run from November 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. Mr. Lucenti possesses permanent certification for this tenure area.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yep, so there's some discussion that goes with on this resolution actually allows me as a superintendent to apply for a waiver with the commissioner. It is not a resolution for you to approve him from November 1st through December 31st. So I just want to be clear, this allows me to complete paperwork for a waiver for him. The reason that he is requesting a waiver is because he is retired, and as you may know, in New York State, once you're retired, you cannot earn over a certain amount of money. This is true for SROs, other government workers, same thing is true for administrators. And so we were unable to bring forward a principal recommendation to you tonight. So I have asked Mr. Lucenti if he would consider staying on through actually December 20th, and based on whether he can get a waiver or not so that his pension is not suspended by New York State, and based on your approval, he would hope to be here through December 20th.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion.
Business report.
I have nothing for tonight.
Wow. It
Wow.
never happens. Okay, superintendent's report.
I'll take her time, no problem. So we have a few secretarial moves that I wanted to put on record because they're not something that the Board of Ed approves since they're already in a position that carries the same title. They're simply moving from one department to another. I do not have an effective date for these because the domino effect is making my head spin just a bit. We have a retirement coming up with Donna Zwack in the high school main office. What you know as the board is that we are working on splitting that main office, which right now is 6 through 12, into two separate spaces, a 6 through 8 main office and a 9 through 12 main office. So what the board and I discussed months ago was creating a second senior clerk typist position. So we posted that position internally. Sue Wozak accepted the position. She is currently in special ed, and she will be transferring from the special ed department to the high school main office as the secretary there. I anticipate that this move would occur in early December. Sue's transfer then left a vacancy within the special ed department and a huge hole. She certainly works very independently within that office. We then once again posted for the position internally to see if there were others interested in transferring, and Sherry Stevens in the transportation department was the only internal applicant, and she accepted the position last night. So sometime early in December, Sherry will be moving from the transportation department to special ed. This now leaves a vacancy within the transportation department, and she also leaves a very large hole. We don't have any internal senior clerk typists interested, and so we've begun the process of canvassing, and that is a civil service requirement, and I hope to have that position in place by early December, and we are under a time clock with civil service that we have to have them in place within 60 days. I don't think there's any other transfers I need to tell you about, but if I do, I'll let you know next time. Also, you might see up on Facebook, up on our website, and maybe in the paper, is our wonderful tradition of mythology. Amber Costanza's classroom for mythology dresses up every year as one of the gods, and the details that they put into their costumes is just crazy. And so we had some wonderful pictures outside last week, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a tradition that she and I both hope will carry on for certainly a long time. Fire prevention, we've had some conversation about that. Last Friday, I had an opportunity to once again go to this annual event at GLP, and the crew from the fire department, with Joe Hart being the presenter, and some of his crew being the actors who certainly get on their knees or get dressed up in their suits, is an amazing thing to watch for all of our kids at GLP. And Joe just brings it down to their level, makes it certainly entertaining and very informative, and also sends them home with a few homework assignments for their parents. It's a really great time. As I mentioned in some of the resolutions, we currently have 2 administrative postings open. We have a high school principal opening that closes on October 21st, and then Marissa's position, as I mentioned, went up today, and that position will be posted until the end of October. And then the last item that I have, I think it's the last, yes, the last item that I have is that I've been making phone calls this week for those people who are interested in sitting in on the October kickoff meeting for our December 2020 capital project. As you have heard me say in the last 3 or 4 meetings, this is intended to be a $10 to $12 million zero tax impact project, primarily focused on the Main Street School. I call it the Main Street School because the alumni get confused. When I say the middle school, they think I'm talking about the Main Street School. When I talk about the elementary school, they think I'm talking about GLP. So I just call it the Main Street School. We are scheduled for this meeting in the end of October. We do have representatives from Eden Alum, PTA, Music and Arts Boosters, all sports boosters, support staff, teachers, students, parents, community, and the Board of Ed. And also Campus and Young and Wright will be there to help us kick it off. Our primary purpose in this project is the windows at GLP. We do have other non-negotiables, and then we're open for suggestions from this crew for other things that perhaps we should be taking a look at. And that's all I have. Thank you. I must have the wrong sheet in front of me. I printed, so maybe you're right, Laura. Maybe I did run out of paper. So Jen actually asked me this question a couple of months ago, I think more as a parent than a board member, if I'm right, is why is it that the elementary school has recognized students for merit, honors, and high honor, but the junior high and the high school, which is now the middle school and the high school, don't recognize high honors? I honestly don't have an answer to why, but we fixed the problem. So it's never been consistent. For as many years as I have asked people who have been here for 15, 20 years, it's always been that way. I don't know why. So Lucinda got into the computer, into Power School yesterday or the day before and fixed it. She's nodding her head. I can see her. So for first quarter, grades 3 through 12 will all recognize high honors, which is 95 and above, which is really good. So thank you, Jen, for bringing that forward.
All right, the student report, your turn. Oh,
one more.
Never mind.
Ellen, you might going to talk about it when it comes to board, so I'll let it be you, but you're going to be reading for family night. So if you make sure you talk about that, okay?
About reading?
Yeah.
Okay, first, okay. Okay. Now your turn.
Okay, so all students have gotten their agendas. so we're all pretty excited about that. Yeah. There's a band concert next week on Thursday, and the high school band's playing with the Erie County Wind Ensemble. And the exchange students will attend the next board meeting to meet the board.
Oh, good.
So just a welcome to Sabrina. This is her first meeting, so thank you very much.
All right, now board report, roundtable.
I wanted to take a minute and talk a little bit about a reminder that we received regarding the naming of the sports complex. And so just a little history. Our football field, which was the grass field, was named for William Boss. And so, for those who don't know, I had to do a little digging to find out who William Boss is, but from what I could find, William Boss was a member of the school board who was instrumental in getting the football field set up initially. It wasn't where it is now, and had to bring in a bunch of fill, and it was quite a project. And so the football field already has a name. For those who may be aware, Captain John Levulis was a graduate of Eden who passed away in service of his country several years ago. His funeral was held at the high school. His family still runs a fundraiser soccer tournament every year to provide scholarships for graduating seniors, and conversations were had about naming something for Captain John Levulis. And so some of those conversations involved perhaps naming the stadium William Boss Field at Captain John Levulis Stadium. Some others of those conversations involved the walkway or an entranceway, some kind of an archway. I liked one idea that the flagpole area be named after Captain John Levulis, so that whenever we play the national anthem, we would say, turn your attention to the Captain John Levulis flagpole area. We would certainly come up with a better name than that, and that would be extraordinary. Or perhaps something in front of the concession stand, there's a grass area to have some kind of a memorial and a bench. So these are all great ideas. However, I have not personally had a conversation with the Levulis family. I've had a number of conversations with Jim Levulis, who is John's brother, but not in regard to what they would like. And so having this reminder been asked of the board, I will reach out to Jim and ask for a meeting to see what the family is interested in doing. And certainly we're open to suggestions from the community or from alumni to say, wouldn't it be interesting to do this? We certainly want to honor John. It was certainly an emotional day with his funeral. The high school was packed, and it was extraordinary. John played both soccer and lacrosse here at Eden, and so it's fitting certainly that we do something, but we want to do the right thing, and since the field already has a name, we don't want to remove that name because of the history of it. And so that's where it stands. I'll reach out to Jim Levulis and see if we can't get a conversation restarted in that regard, and come up with something that would be appropriate, and maybe set a goal for getting that done in summer so that we can have that open for next football season.
So Jack, if I could just tag on to that, my contact with the Levulis family is Jim Rainey, which is the uncle. He also runs the foundation, have talked about the archway. I know that they were very interested in getting something up this fall, and then it died off over the summer, because of course these are complicated to do. They take an awful lot of time and effort and thoughtfulness. So when you do speak with Jim, if you could also just let him know that we also know that that archway is something that they've had in mind too. Okay.
Just to piggyback on that, I did participate in the John Levulis Memorial Scholarship Tournament. It was So, yeah, this is my 4th year, and I will say for the record, I've never played soccer up until I participated in this tournament. It is a lot of fun. The family is extremely grateful and appreciative for just the support that the community shows. And like I said, it's a lot of fun. I've played in super hot weather, snowy weather. This year was perfect. A little bit of sun, great temperature. It would be great if we could, I mean, I know we're looking at more than a year away, but things like this do take time. If we could somehow couple it with maybe his tournament or...
That would be a great time to do the unveiling, essentially. His family, much of his family does not live here anymore, and so they're back for that tournament, so that makes an awful lot of sense. And so we should, I guess, get cracking on it.
Okay. Oh, well, I guess I'll just mention the reading night at GLP. I'm going to be one of the readers. I'm excited about that. That's why I'm not going to go to that Capitol meeting that Sandy has, because I'd rather do the reading. So looking forward to it.
What are you reading?
It's a surprise. And it's going to be spooky. Like spooky?
We have a Halloween theme.
Halloween theme, yeah. So I'm ready. I'll be there.
I believe there is the Erie County School Board Association legislative meeting is next Thursday or tomorrow?
No, because next Thursday is the NISBA.
I feel like it's tomorrow. I have to...
NISBA's next
Yeah.
Thursday and Friday. We're going
So
to
Ellen and I
Sandy.
are going to NISBA next week, you're right, so
Yeah,
it
so
probably
it's-
is tomorrow.
yeah.
So I will be attending that. It is, yeah, thank you, Don. So I will report back on any new developments in the funding arena and legislative issues in general for schools.
And Sandy and I are going to NISBA next week, so we'll bring back wonderful ideas too. Hopefully.
I think one of the things that we're certainly all looking for is the next election day and the impact that the new regulation will have, which is that 3-hour ability for employees to go vote. There are regulations for posting, which we'll certainly abide by, but that would be something I'd be interested, Jen, if it comes up tomorrow.
Anybody else?
I'm just going to kind of piggyback on Sabrina. Homecoming was quite the success, especially the bonfire this year. They opened the turf field and turned the lights on, and there was a bunch of games being played on it. The concession stand was open, and I think a lot of kids had a lot of good time during that thing. I want to thank Student Council for putting that all together.
Sounds good. Okay. All right, the next regular Board of Education meeting is Wednesday, November 20th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the Eden Elementary School Auditorium. Now, executive session. Just enter, could we go to B? Enter into executive session. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education enter executive session to discuss
So,
something
we missed
mysterious.
that, Barb. I know. Barb and I go over this over and over and over, don't we? And this time I missed this one. The recommendation from me to the Board of Education is we enter executive session to discuss some contract negotiations and the history of a particular person.
I don't have to second it then, right? Isn't written? Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Thank you.